Lewis, dude, thank you so much for jumping on, mate.
Anytime. Thank you for having me on.
Mate, well, we've worked together in the past, maybe like a year and a half ago or something like that. But you're back on now for Remote Pro. Let's just start, dude, if it's all right with you, with because your business is in a really good place and it has been for as long as I've known you. You know, you've got a successful business, you've got great community, you've got great products and service. But coming into Remote Pro, what were some of the like challenges or frustrations that you say you had or you were facing at that time?
So I think obviously it was like last year I started to it was a bit monotonous. Like I said, businesses are good, like it's in a good position, but I really
Mm,
started to lack fulfillment. I was like, this can't be the way of doing things. And I was questioning things, going like, I can't do this continually. Like even though the money's good or we're still, building a reputable brand, I just weren't happy with what I was
mm.
doing. And obviously I had a conversation for you, like, how do I change this? And you were like, well, well, we've got and it's exactly in line with what I'm trying to do, which is
Yeah.
to scale my business in a way that I want to scale it. And what I mean by scale is obviously grow it, but around my values now that I'm a dad and now that things are changing, like that really was the switch for me. But I was just frustrated, lacking fulfillment, thinking about giving it all up, and then yeah, I needed to try a new way before I just dropped the ball, to be fair.
Well, that resonates with me, mate, because that's the exact place that I was in last year. You know, it's like, okay, this is cool. Like you're making all this money, and you seemingly from the outside looking in, it looks like it's a success and everything's going the way that it's supposed to. And it almost feels a little bit like, well, I shouldn't be feeling this way because I'm achieving all of the things that I want to achieve. But there's just something missing, isn't there? There's like, is this it? Is this the way that it's going to be forever? So since starting, dude, and since because you've been in the program now for probably about 8 weeks or so,
Yeah.
what have been some of the biggest shifts for you, or like how are you feeling now that you've started to work through the levels and start to understand the client ecosystem and how you're going to deliver the products and service moving forwards?
So I think, like as I said to you, like I've been trying to change things. If you know my background, I've done things pretty well. I've got the content side of things and all that, but it's just about just turning up a dial in every area to
Mm,
make sure it flows for me. And I was saying this off air, is like, the first 8 weeks have been amazing for like clarity to be like, I actually know like who I am, what I'm doing, what my program offers, why it's different, who I don't want to be. Like all of them things that I've probably questioned in the past, I've figured that out. And I was
mm,
saying to you, like, it's even now exciting that I'm only scratching the surface and I've still got so much to improve on, but at the same time, I'm not in a rush to do it all right now and be like, well, my business needs to do that right now. I can just see it happening down the line. So I just feel super clear on what I'm doing for the first time. And I'm not just pulling things out of the air as like a bit of a tactic or a strategy or,
mm,
trying to grab clients for the sake of it. Like I'm growing the business on my terms, even down to the fact that, I've had some people message me and I've messaged you saying, how do I sort of go and say, I don't think you're going to be right for me right now. Like, how do we go away and watch some more of my stuff? And that's sort of part of the ecosystem, which I really like, is I want people to go and absorb my content and join me for me,
yeah.
not me have to sell to them. Like that's the biggest thing for me.
Yeah, mate, I'm so glad you said that because I've made a real conscious effort with this program to steer away from the tactics and the hacks and the quick win strategies and like, there's none of that really, is there?
No,
Because, ultimately you just end up, like you say, jumping from thing to thing. How can I quickly get people across the line? And that's when you end up with this like Frankenstein business where your clients are all this weird mismatch of people. Some people kind of know who you are and what you're about and who you help, and other people have just come off the back of a little hack or strategy. And it's like if you continually grow the business that way, you end up with this like weird collection of people that maybe aren't the best fit for you. So it's so cool to see you now just like playing the long game. Not to say that you're not crushing it because you absolutely are, but playing the long game and not like rushing into sales with people,
no,
letting it happen naturally, letting it happen slowly, consuming your content, knowing who you are, and then coming across the line nice and easily. What are some things, mate, that you think you've changed quite dramatically since starting, or you know you're going to change based on like, knowing how the model works and where it's going?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing for me is like the deliverables of what I'm doing. Like I've always went with the usual, the grain of what you should do, and I've had my own way of doing things for a while, and I've constantly adapted and asked and tested and done this. But I was saying to you is that I've tried to include everything, which sometimes just makes things harder for me. So I think the goal next is to change the deliverables which suits my clients and me by showing them the new way of doing things and not necessarily just the way that it's always been. So that's probably the biggest thing that I've got coming up that I'm going to be changing. And just being super, I said, dialed in on like I don't look anywhere else anymore, and I think it's a big one. Like I used to be quite obsessed with looking around. That what's that person doing? What's that person doing? What's that mentor doing? Whereas now I'm like, I don't give a fuck. I just do what I want to do, and that's where I'm going. So like that's probably the biggest shift. And if people look into that and go, that's the terrible way of doing things, I don't really care because I know that it suits what we're doing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I don't actually think it is a terrible way.
No, of course not.
There is, maybe there's some value in like having a finger on the pulse with what other people are doing and what's potentially working. I think like one of the things that I learned last year is that everything works. Like you can take any approach and anything will work, but it's about finding something that's in alignment with the way that you want to grow the business, the way that you want to deliver it, the way that you want to do content marketing. Like that is the thing that I got wrong massively last year or the early last year is kind of building the business under somebody else's advice without really consciously thinking about actually, is this how I want to do things?
Even now, I'm doing that with like, obviously I would get advice from you with things, and I've still got for the first time ever, probably I've been like, I know what I'm doing, no, like I know
Yeah.
where I'm going. So I always keep that in my mind as opposed to going, oh, that person's doing that, or that's working now, so I'll just jump ship to that.
Mm,
Like the first time, I know, like, no, this is what I'm doing, and this is what it's working, and this is what I want to do. So
yeah.
that's the biggest thing, you know what I mean?
It's having like one source, isn't it? One source of this is where I'm going to take direction from, and I'm just going to go all in on it rather than just being scattered and being pulled from pillar to post and trying loads of different things. It just usually ends up in a bit of overwhelm. Yeah, man, that's sick. Back to your point on the deliverable side, like you've always done things slightly differently from most coaches with your deliverables. You're not like the complete standard client checks in, deliver a Loom feedback video. I know you've always done calls and things like that. But I could see you almost literally having those penny drop moments when we did the one-to-one access stack approach, and you were just like, yeah, I know what I'm going to do now. You could see you just going, oh, yeah, 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 I know what I'm doing now. So I'm
I was
looking forward
getting
to seeing you.
frustrated for so long to do that, and I knew in my
Yeah.
head this needs to change. And as I said to you, like the access stack was just like exactly what I needed because I was thinking that all of that, everyone need all of that stack.
Mm,
People don't. People need different points in that stack, and that's the big thing that's going to be changing, and that's going to help me massively with like my fulfillment and like
yeah.
helping people win. That's the biggest goal. But like at the same time, it allows me to turn the dial up with like creating more stuff for my clients and make like we've just like we do events and stuff. Like we've got going to Lisbon to run another marathon at the end of the year, and
Sick.
like driving all of that as opposed to like I'm so fixated in delivery that
Yeah.
I can't do any of this other fun, cool stuff,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah. 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 I feel you, man. Mate, what would you say for anyone who's on the fence for a remote pro? Well, currently, as this has been recorded, the doors are closed because you just filled the last space last night. But for any upcoming intakes, this sun is completely blinded me now, and the gardeners have just rocked up as well, so we'll probably hear a lawnmower in the background. Um, but what would you say for anyone who's on the fence, dude, about potentially joining Remote Pro?
I said you need to just get involved. Like as Ollie said there, like you've everything works. So I know that a lot of people are skeptical of like, oh, that mentor and this mentor and that. What Ollie's doing and what you're building is what I'm trying to build. Like, and I said I messaged him many times inside the program and went, Like it's clicked. Like that's what we're trying to do. And you just went exactly like. So as I said, if you're sick and tired of trying to just do what everyone else is doing, and you want a different approach that suits your lifestyle and what you want to do, then this is the perfect program for that.
Yeah,
So
sick
that's the
man.
biggest thing, though.
Yeah, appreciate that, man. Thank you so much. Well, dude, thank you for taking the time to jump on, man. Really, really appreciate it.
Good
And
man.
I'm sure we'll have another call in the not too distant future and celebrate some massive wins in the business.
Big milestones being hit soon.
Sweet, man. Thank
Thank
you.
you.